There is our little occupancy thing here that tells us how many people we can actually have in here.
There is a seat up there in the front, right there.
One in the middle.
So the camera, the TV's on outside with audio, so you can watch.
Yeah, so if you're standing in the back and there's nowhere to sit, I hate to say this, but could you guys just kind of go out in the lobby and then come on in? Because I think we're kind of at capacity. Not, you don't have to leave, Russ. Well, Mr. Rogers, you don't have to go out there.
Trail folks.
You want to see if there's anyone for the McLaughlin-Kenema Trail?
Yes, if you're here for the McLaughlin-Kenema Trail, come on in and we'll have somebody trade out for you. Is anybody here for the McLaughlin-Kenema Trail? Yay, thank you.
Good.
Oh, we got labels. How nice. Yes.
10 people leaving, 10 people.
We got the news here.
We'll be taking breaks so that people are switching out. We'll make sure there's time for people to switch out and come in and out, so no one will be excluded, but everybody got here and got the chairs first.
Because that letter you wrote.
Okay, we are going to go ahead and call the February 12th meeting to order of the Oregon City Planning Commission. And for those of you who like trivia, somebody will tell me how many years old Abraham Lincoln is. I'm of the age where I remember when we used to get that day off, and Washington's birthday. So we don't get to do that anymore. And there we go, cell phones. All right, so we have some public hearings tonight, but first, we have two people who are here that would like to provide public comment for items that are not currently on the agenda. And Martin, would you like to come on up?
Thank you.
You're so welcome. And is Carla, are you here for the same thing?
I am.
Okay, why don't you come on up with him?
Thank you.
Are we gonna impose time limits on this testimony?
This is public comments, it's not items not on the agenda.
I would prefer time limits.
We'll give them 3 to 4 minutes.
I tried to fit mine into 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, I'm feeling generous tonight, so you can have 3 and a half,
It's up to
4.
the commission to decide.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyway, they're going to try to keep it within 3 minutes because I know he has to leave. Go right ahead.
My name is Martin Imhoff. I'm an Oregon City resident of Roosevelt Street, an R6 neighborhood of single-family residences. I'm the husband of Sue Ann Imhoff, who submitted 2 requests to the planning office on February 5th. Request 3716 is about unlicensed contractors performing renovations and repairs on 523 Roosevelt Street. And request 3717 is about the intended use of 523 Roosevelt Street as a halfway house for newly releasing inmates. The staff we visited with, Ms. Turway, were all very professional and pleasant. And we thank you for that. And I say we because I now find myself one of several dozen concerned citizens. Though I understand the nature of the planning office's investigation will revolve around applicable code, I also suspect it will involve the office's fact-finding, will involve communications with the owner of the property and/or those leasing the property. The concerned citizens living on and near Roosevelt Street have reasons to mistrust what you might be told by the property owner or representatives of free on the outside housing, including their president, Mike Cross. And this is because we've heard conflicting messages. The former tenant of 523 Roosevelt was told he had to pay $1,000 more rent per month or move out. And then he was told by the owner of the house that it was going to be converted to a halfway house for 10 releasing inmates at a time. On February 3rd, a threatening, coarse-mouthed man named Mike Smith, who was assisting the moving in process, said 10 releasing inmates of any criminal history, including those not allowed near children, were moving in. This house has got a deck, and to the right are 2 lovely children, to the left are 2 lovely children. On February 10th, when moving in activity resumed, Approaching neighbors were told a different story by Mr. Cross. Now the home was to be a sobriety house with 9 residents and a live-in manager. So we don't know who to believe. Was it the property owner, or the coarse-mouthed helper, or the smooth-tongued Mr. Cross? We concerned citizens are seeking an appropriate land use attorney to counsel us or act on our behalf if necessary. Until then, we wanted to make sure the commission was aware of the duplicitous interactions we've had with those seeking to repurpose 523 Roosevelt Street, including now, just this morning, the house manager who had an apparent incident of road rage with one of our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
My name is Carla Laws, and I live on Roosevelt Street. We have 19 kids under 15, 7 with disabilities, 12 under the age of 9, and 13 take the bus daily. Personally, I have 3 kids, a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 2-year-old. My 2-year-old has delayed gross motor issues. 2 of my kids, the 13 and 10-year-old, are in the bilingual program, one at Gardner and one at Candy Lane. So they literally have, the buses are pretty full. I don't know if you're familiar with the district, but they try to cart everyone to Milwaukee, especially for Candy Lane and Jennings. So my kids have to literally cross the whole neighborhood to Division Street just to take the bus. One of the guys working at this home walked through my alley over the weekend when I was loading up ladders in my garage and startled me, said hello. But what scares me is we have all these dark alleys and they can freely walk through them because they have the right to. And now I can't have my kids in the backyard because I have a chain link fence and they can see in. In any case, one of the men that is running the house has assaulted a child. And in an article of the Tri-Cities Herald, May 20th, 2012, the man abused a grade schooler, and he said he did because she initiated it. And he prays that damage was minimal. Well, I can tell you, I'm a survivor of being sexually abused as a child by a pedophile, and it haunts me. I always carry shame with me. I post-traumatic stress disorder of a Vietnam vet, so when someone breathes really hard or grabs me when I don't know or just surprises me, I can shut down. I was anorexic in 5th grade. I struggled. I lost 30 pounds in 5th grade in 2 months. My therapy over 10 years, at some points at high end, was $140 a week. In 10 years, that has cost me as a young mom $43,680. I plead with you in any way possible to stop this. I'd greatly appreciate it for the sake of our children, because one child, that's what it's cost me. And I don't want that for any child. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Laura, has there been any land use action that's required for this? And also has Chief Band been made aware of this? I'm assuming he knows about this.
Chief Band is aware. The city received code enforcement complaints last Monday, and since then we have initiated code enforcement. We have sent out letters to the property owners to address both the violations regarding the use, and then the second one is regarding building without permits. And so we're working on both of those cases, but there has been coordination between us and the police department.
Okay, police department other than code enforcement?
Correct.
Have you guys talked to Chief Band?
We had spoken to him the last time we came in with excuse me, we had spoken to him the last time we came in, and it was the meeting last week. So beyond that, we don't know what's going on other than, no one has informed us of anything. Mm-hmm. And so I made arrangements with the school district. I contacted them to let them know, but I haven't heard anything back yet.
Okay. Well, maybe one other thing is that I know each neighborhood association has a police officer liaison, and I know in my neighborhood, that's my go-to guy, and I actually have his number on my speed dial.
I'd love
So I call him all the time. So do you know who your liaison officer is?
I don't.
Okay, that would be a good person for you guys to talk to, like, immediately.
Ms. Turway gave us the name when we visited her
Okay.
office on February 5th,
I
and
would
I don't
definitely-
have it memorized.
Yeah, I would definitely, because I don't know all the officers and who's all's assigned to which neighborhoods, but I know that the one in my neighborhood has been extremely helpful, and even though most of us in the community know Chief Ban, that's still another ally that you would have as well, since that person's supposed to be very knowledgeable about your neighborhood. But I would, again, I've always found Chief Ban to be very responsive. I would get back in touch with him and maybe set up another meeting with him and the liaison officer.
And the other thing is we were just told that as some residents were leaving, there were really loading up the house as we speak. And the other thing is I wanted to mention that 6 houses owners are wanting to list. And one aggressively moved out of the house with their children, and the husband is listing the house, we've been told this week. So people are feeling intimidated, especially near that house, to move. And they don't care if they lose property value. They're desperate to leave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Laura, do you have any advice for us?
You're more than welcome to talk to us or Chief Band or Chris Wadsworth and stay in communication to keep the track of the status of the code enforcement violation. On our end, as far as the conditional use, the question is, do they need a conditional use? No conditional use has been obtained, so we're working to identify if a conditional use is needed.
So you said obtained, or do they need to apply for one? That's what you're making the determination of right now?
If one's needed.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
keep us posted.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a reason these are out of order? I know it's 3B and 3A.
Because we wanted to put the Kanema thing on the agenda first. I hope that that was okay.
Oh, I don't know, just a lot of people.
Yeah, I understand, but this has been waiting,
Okay.
and we want to get there. All right, so on tonight's agenda, we have the legislative amendment to adopt the McLaughlin-Kanema Trail Plan and amending the Transportation System Plan, the Trails Master Plan, and the Parks Master Plan, and it's item LE 1702. And even though probably don't have any ex parte contact, I will say for the record that I was a member of the Planning Advisory Team for Citizens for this particular project, and I participated in, I think I came to all the meetings. So I will probably have a lot to say about it because it was a very good process. So Kelly, would you like to go ahead with this?
Yes, thank you, Chair McGriff. I have the brief staff report for this item, and then we have an applicant presentation. Our Community Services Director, Phil Lewis, could make it today, along with our trusted consultant, Mary Stewart. And so they will be presenting the applicant presentation tonight. And I'll keep my staff report brief. So this item was last on your agenda about 3 months ago. And we are now back, so a quick reminder of what we're looking at here. We've got a proposed legislative amendment to adopt the McLaughlin-Kanema Trail Plan as an ancillary document to the Transportation System Plan, Parks Master Plan, and the Trails Master Plan, and to amend the project lists within each of those 3 plans to reflect the McLaughlin to Kanema Trail. And so we heard a few issues at the last hearing in November. We included with the staff report this time an issues matrix that addressed each one of those issues in greater detail, but I'll summarize them here. We heard concern about the trail alignment through private property near Tumwater Drive and along Highway 99, McLaughlin Boulevard. We heard concerns over a potential relocation of the VFW driveway that connects to Tumwater Drive. We heard some concerns that we didn't get committee recommendations, although we visited the Parks and Rec and Transportation Advisory Committees. We didn't have any motions or votes from those groups. And then we heard some additional alignment options brought up that were, ideas that I think some folks wanted to investigate further at that hearing. And so the advisory group came back together in December for another meeting to discuss these issues, and that resulted in some minor changes to the proposed plan. I will gloss over those, and I think Phil and Mary will just explain them in a little bit greater detail. But we've got a slightly revised permanent trail alignment recommendation today. In particular, I want to point to the dotted red line here in the middle, where we're now showing multiple options to get through that area because this is a long-term, very far into the future project, at least that part of it. We're leaving some flexibility. And this was what the advisory group agreed to in the December meeting after hearing all of the comments, concerns, and actually included a lot of those property owners in that meeting. We have a slight change to the VFW driveway. Instead of calling for a potential relocation of the driveway, the plan now just talks about putting the trail adjacent to the existing driveway, keeping that driveway access in that location. So we'd either widen it or add a trail next to it. And then we've added in blue a future extension or connection to the future Riverwalk alignment that would end with a bridge over the railroad. And then we wanted to make sure that we emphasize that that is a future connection that would kind of close the loop and create a full loop trail here in the very long term.
You can read it, it's fine.
And so just to remind you of the review criteria we're looking at, it's really just in Chapter 1768 of our municipal code, which guides our zoning amendments. And so the criteria are really our comprehensive plan, goals, and policies, our existing plans and statewide planning goals, along with state and regional transportation plans. In particular, I want to point out within our comprehensive plan, we have goals for developing our Parks and Rec system to identify and construct a network of off-street trails throughout the city and seek out opportunities to coordinate and partner with other departments. And this plan really highly reflects both of these policies in that our Parks Department is collaborating with Public Works and planning to implement the portion of the Trails Master Plan. We've got goals regarding land use and transportation and multimodal travel options, and as a shared use path, this trail will provide options, alternatives for people to use bicycles and travel on foot in between these destinations. And of course, safety. Within the plan, we've got a lot of what's included in the plan is a lot of safety improvements to road crossings for pedestrians and bicyclists, and some provisions within the Kanema neighborhood to slow traffic and create a safer walking environment. And so to review the actual changes to our project lists, we've got TSP project S36, which has been revised to reflect the new recommendation from the group. It shows that there's multiple options in the in the developed area along Highway 99. We've got an amendment to Project B57, which is a bike route project. This reflects the interim trail alignment along High Street. And then on the left, we're keeping the left turn onto Tumwater from 99. The closure of that turn is still on our project list, and that is moving forward as long as this plan is approved and by Planning Commission and City Commission, that can move forward. And we're working with ODOT on that. That's that yellow dot D96, so that left turn movement would be closed. The green dot, project C37, has been revised to be a little bit more vague, and so it just says pedestrian bike crossing of South 2nd Street. It doesn't say where it will be, and even though that dot is shown, where it's shown, the project description clarifies that a final location for that crossing is still to be determined and needs to be studied further. So that project has been slightly amended based on the issues brought up at the last hearing and based on the discussions of the advisory group. And then we're still proposing the same clarifications to the family-friendly routes there, FF22 and FF34. Then on the right is TSP project FF21, which is a family-friendly route in Kenema. You can see the existing project is simply mostly along 4th Avenue. The amended project would continue that on to 3rd Avenue, 4th Avenue, and 5th Avenue. And the reason for that is if all of those streets are identified as family-friendly routes, then the city has, the area then meets the criteria to designate the area as a 20-mile-per-hour zone, which is part of the plan. And so those things go hand in hand. If you have a family-friendly route and you meet certain traffic volumes, you can qualify for a 20-mile-per-hour zone. And so we're expanding that family-friendly route in Kenema. Trails and Parks Master Plan project lists, we're just amending the descriptions of these projects. One is the actual McLaughlin-Kenema Trail, which used to be called the old Kenema-McLaughlin Connection. And so we're modifying the description to match what's in the plan now. And then the Oregon City Loop Trail, this is the same as you saw before, the same amendment that just clarifies the description of that loop trail to include the McLaughlin-Kenema Trail as a segment of the overall loop trail. And that is the extent of the staff report.
I'm slightly amused by the old Kenema thing. I mean, did they mean it was historic or just old?
Maybe both. Was that a question or just a
I think that's
thought?
rhetorical.
It was just an amusing thought. Thinking old Kenema. Old Kenema, old McLaughlin connection. Okay, that's a little odd.
And I do have a few comment forms that I'll bring up to you.
Okay. I just
And-
wondered because I saw people, but I didn't have
Yeah.
any cards, and I thought, okay.
And I've got one item to add to the record, which is an email from the Clackamas County Historical Society. Staff met with the Historical Society between last hearing and this hearing, and they provided some feedback, and just so everybody is included, I'll give a quick summary. It says, though we support the trail, we have concerns regarding the pedestrian crossing at Tumwater and 2nd. Backups could be severe if it's one way in, one way out, if it blocks turns. Tumwater entrance takes a lot of pressure, and would it be is possible to explore a roundabout solution or add a left turn lane? And the second item is they would like to see street parking striped along Tumwater to be used to its maximum potential. And so just so the Planning Commission is aware, The change to that crossing project to specify that the location of it and the design of it is still yet to be studied. I think that addresses the first part of their comment. And then the street parking striping along Tumwater, I think we actually have a cross-section drawing that shows street parking accommodated on both sides of Tumwater, and I think that's a design detail that could be worked out in the future.
Did
So,
you say that this was the staff or this was the board?
so the board met, and then the comment came from staff with the board copied on the email. So I'll pass that.
There wasn't like any official vote or?
I don't know how they did it, but I asked them if this was their official comment from CCHS, and she said yes.
And I know they were invited to participate in the process.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, is it Phil or Trusted Mary? Yes.
Phil starts.
I will be starting.
Let me bring up your presentation.
So thank you very much. My name is Phil Lewis, the Community Services Director for the city and manage the parks and trails for our jurisdiction. So the purpose of the plan is to connect the city's parks and amenities. This section is an important piece not only to neighboring residents, but also to the city as a whole and to our region. So it'll connect the Kenema Children's Park and through that Kenema Bluffs, which is a Metro operated property, Old Kenema Park, and Willamette Falls Riverwalk, soon to be developed, as well as the McLaughlin Promenade. So it will be a key piece of not only the local community, but also our regional trail system and our larger Oregon City Loop Trail. So the purpose of conducting the trail work is to implement the 2013 Transportation Systems Plan. So we have called out in the Transportation Systems Plan shared use pathways, which will connect the promenade to Old Kenema Park. We also have family-friendly routes, which will connect through the Kenema neighborhood, and crossings both across 2nd Street as well as 99E. Additionally, purpose is to implement the 2004 Trails Master Plan, the Old Kenema to McLaughlin section, and then again expanding that to the Kenema Children's Park, as well as updating our plan to incorporate this as a section of the Oregon City Loop Trail, which is a regional trail system.
And my name's Mary Stewart. I work for Alta Planning and Design. The main type of project that we do is trail work, and it's trail planning through design and implementation. Most of the next series of photos we took or folks took while we were out doing our first stakeholder walk with a few folks that are here in the room today. So back here along 99E, getting ready to go in front of the PG&E substation. On the right is one of the trails going through Old Kenema Park. Here we're looking at the streets through the Kenema neighborhood. I think this is technically third, but third, fourth, and fifth all have the same kind of narrow roadway section. I think there's pinch points that actually go down to a 16-foot pinch point, but for the most part, this is the way this neighborhood functions right now. So no sidewalks, very few places for folks to safely walk or bike through the neighborhood. It's also very historic. It sits on a fairly steep hillside. So as you can see, like on the downhill slope, there are homes down there as well as homes up on the hillside above. down through High Street, we have, let me see if we get the little scanner to work. We have some pinch points above where we have very little space between the fog line, the edge of the lane, and the existing historic wall. One of the goals of the project was to not touch any of the historic structures, so trying to retain all walls in place was very important to the neighborhood. I'll talk a little bit more about what that means when we get to the geotechnical slide. On the side over here, this is another area where we're looking at the crossing across 99E, getting from what was, this is the riverside, getting back over to the neighborhood and looking at how long that is for a crossing for pedestrians. The tour was just one of the beginning elements. Actually, it wasn't the very beginning. Kelly sent out hundreds of mailers for this project, but it was the beginning of a really long process with a lot of folks that were involved from the very beginning, and people that, this is, I think, most of these folks stuck around for the whole time to work on the stakeholder group. But folks who were actively involved in the community already took time out of their busy lives to participate in the process and provide a lot of really valuable input. And out of the community advisory group, we have representatives from not just committees in Oregon City, but also we had a representative from ODOT, who is at almost every meeting. We had a representative from PGE, who was at, I think, every single meeting, and they were very engaged during the process and helped provide valuable input as far as opening up opportunities and letting us know what other challenges we might face. We did a Greenway for a day, which was a lot of fun. We got to actually meet with people out on site in the corridor and talk about the project and hear folks' visions for the future of this potential trail and where they would like to see it aligned and the kind of safety, traffic calming types of improvements that could be taken and addressed throughout the Old Kenema neighborhood. Here's just a couple more photos. We had a lot of little kids out there that day. It was really fun. This is actually right adjacent to the PGE substation. This is not where the trail would actually get located because we're not allowed to be that close to the fence. We'd actually be further, a little bit further to the west, but that's the only way we could get through that day. So we studied a lot of alternatives. We studied an amazing amount of alignment alternatives. We had a really big challenge with this because there, in this entire neighborhood up here, there really isn't any way right now to walk without walking in the middle of the road. If you are trying to get from the McLaughlin Promenade over, there are some places that have sidewalks, some sides that don't. You are, forced to either go up and walk along South End High Street, where there's no sidewalk either, or walk along McLaughlin, where the sidewalk just disappears. It was a big challenge, and there were a lot of people who felt very strongly about certain alternatives and several folks who felt very strongly about other alternatives. And honestly, they were all wonderful suggestions, and they were all really, really desired for the neighborhood. I think it was such a hard decision because there were so many different alternatives and because there was so much need. Getting anywhere in through here is a challenge. And so, I mean, if we had all the money in the world, we'd say do them all. Let's just make this whole neighborhood easy and accessible for everybody. But we don't, so our job was to try to go through the alternatives and see which ones were going to be the easiest to implement, the most cost-effective, trying to provide safety, and trying to connect as many people to as many places as possible. This was our alignment A. It took advantage of existing walkways along McLaughlin. There's an existing sidewalk and an existing boardwalk, both of which would need to be widened to be able to handle two-way traffic. They're both, well, the boardwalk is definitely wide enough that it's hard to walk side by side with a human, let alone have a bicyclist go by while you're walking the opposite direction. The sidewalk would also need to be widened either towards ODOT, which has its own series of challenges, or towards the river, which creates some interesting challenges with the cliff face. We come across McLaughlin, and there is a future plan for a signal improvement there. Kelly, am I? I'm sorry?
A pedestrian signal.
Pedestrian signal at Jerome. And then following 3rd up Ganong, and then 4th over to the park. This did a great job of connecting the McLaughlin Promenade with the Children's Park. It did not link up to the old Kanema Park. And we did hear during our site walk and during the Greenway for a day that the old Kanema Park was something really special and something that it was really desired to be connected to. Alignment B, and this was an early alignment, as you can tell by the way the lines go through. We now show several alternatives in through here, but this was when we were studying all three, this is what the first take at alternative alignment B would look like. It came along the VFW parking lot, along Tumwater, along 2nd, on the east side of McLaughlin, came up in front of the PG substation, came up a little rise right here, and brought people up to actually a really gorgeous view of Willamette Falls. So this actually became one of our little special places, and everybody who came through on the Greenway for a day was really taken aback by that view that you got from here. Then we follow existing trails through Old Kanema Park, come out on 3rd, up Ganong, and follow 4th as well. And then we had alignment C, and this came up from 2nd Street. There are 2 seconds, by the way, just to not confuse anybody. There's a 2nd here, and there's another 2nd here. This is South 2nd. So coming up from McLaughlin Boulevard, there's a road that ends, and then there's a little open space area. This would propose to put a trail connecting from the end of the road up to McLaughlin Promenade, then following High Street. And in this condition, cyclists would share the roadway with motorists, but pedestrians would be using the sidewalks. Somehow crossing 2nd Street and then coming up South End Road. Oh, and there's potentially a future proposed signal at 2nd and High. Then following South End up and coming in on 5th, and there was an alternative, I think at one point, to potentially come off here and come in through the park. But the grades in here are very steep, so that access point wouldn't meet ADA accessibility guidelines. And just to pause for a quick moment, when we are following a roadway, as long as the sidewalks are going at the same grade that the road does, that meets ADA accessibility guidelines. But when we are off in an area where there is no road and we are following a trail, the trail is required to be less than 5% to meet ADA. So in this situation where we're On South End, we are most likely exceeding 5% in certain locations, but because we are using the existing road, that is considered acceptable. So here is the point where we come into Fifth, and this happened to be an area where a lot of school kids are already meeting to catch the bus and getting dropped off on the bus. So it does definitely make sense, as Kelly mentioned earlier, to make Fifth a family-friendly street. I think that is a great idea because kids are already getting off here and needing to walk down Fifth. There's no reason people need to be driving more than 20 miles an hour around children. When we get to the point where Fifth turns to go west, we have this option to go, this is the, it's technically city right-of-way. It's supposed to be a potential future extension of Fifth. Currently, this is probably most people in this neighborhood assume that this is their backyard. But it would be proposing a trail between properties, the back sides of properties over to get back over to the park. And there's a fairly steep area right here, about the last, I believe it's 80 feet, where we have quite a change in grade, and we would need to do a series of switchbacks in here with some retaining walls to make that connection back down. And like I said, all of these were really great options, and they were all really desired by people. I think it was a hard time. I think even the stakeholders had a hard time making a decision. Some of the things that influenced the decision were the environmental report. We had a preliminary environmental report that helped us determine where we were located, our trail alignments. Essentially, there's the City of Oregon City has a permit called an NROD permit, which is Natural Resource Overlay District. That's what you see as all the purple. And what that essentially means is we've got a special permit that we need to use to develop trails in those areas. One of the big criteria is we can't build a trail within 25 feet of wetlands without doing a certain amount of mitigation. We realigned our trail alignments to try to avoid those as best as possible. I think we managed to miss all of them. And then the geotechnical report, we have a fair amount of scarp, an old landslide in this area, as you probably all know from the history of South End. And what old landslide means when it comes to designing trails is that we have very little space in the area where we can build a trail that isn't on old landslide. And when we do that, it can be done. We just have to be very, very careful so that we don't trigger landslide above or below. And what that means is there's certain types of excavation we can do. For instance, for the High Street South End alignment, we need to widen the roadway. And that would mean cutting into the toe of slope on the uphill side of the road, cutting back into essentially the basalt in a few locations, cutting it back so that we have enough space that's even to shift the cars to travel lanes closer to the uphill side, and stripe off and put some form of barrier on a downhill side of the road so that there's a space here wide enough for pedestrians and cyclists to walk. We can't cut into the top of slope on a downhill side in this situation because that could trigger other issues further down slope. So we had challenges with all three locations, though. I just happened to be looking at this one. On the Riverfront Alignment A that had One potential widening option was going along the basalt face. That's going to be its own set of challenges, trying to pin into basalt and not cause a rock fall. The existing boardwalk is pretty much at its design life right now, and to widen it would most likely mean we'd tear the whole thing out and rebuild in a structure that wasn't wood. And alignment B, it has some areas where we would also be, actually I'm going to go back a little bit. In the area here where we've got this great overlook to the Willamette Falls, it's also that where that steep part of the cliff face is forming, and we can't be too close to the cliff face because there's potential for those boulders to fall. So we'd have to be back a certain length, a certain distance from the rock face unless we can coordinate with ODOT and get that stabilized so that we can get a little bit closer. But given different areas, it's within 10 feet of the cliff or within 20 feet in the less stable area. So. And this is what that all looked like on, as simple as we could make it, a chart. It looks fairly complicated, but all of these criteria across the top were derived from goals that were decided by the stakeholders. We went through a list fairly early on and had folks vote and come up with their thoughts on what was the most important deciding factors for the alignments. Willamette Falls views was fairly important. The quality of the experience was fairly important. Things like crime risk, we heard a lot about crime in Old Kenema Park. So the idea of getting more legitimate users in the park during a variety of times of day was going to help with that, as opposed to limiting the amount of people that get to go there. There was a strong desire for maintaining all of the historic elements in both the McLaughlin neighborhood, the Old Kenema neighborhood, as well as avoiding personal property impacts. I think every project had a little bit of a property impact to a certain extent, except Alignment A, which was just in ODOT right-of-way. But I bet ODOT had felt like that was an impact for them. But Alignment B, some of the alignments go through if certain properties develop in the future, there's potential for the alignment to go through there. If they don't, it would be looking at the frontage along McLaughlin, but those are also some pretty active business driveways, so trying to do that in such a way that is amenable to all parties and safe for all parties is important. For alignment C, this one went right behind people's homes, and that's not uncommon. That happens a lot with trail development. But it can be a challenge, and we take that very seriously, and we try to work with the neighbors to make sure that we're addressing concerns. Anyway, this one I can go on if people have questions, but we did some preliminary planning level estimates, and as most people can guess, planning level estimates are a ballpark idea. It's like a shot in the dark. We know certain quantities, but we don't have a survey. We don't know everything that's out there. This is kind of where those ballpark estimates fall. So I think we're nearing our time. I'm almost out of time, I'm told. So that's how we came up with this interim trail alignment. This really took This was the preferred, well, this is the interim of the preferred. Let me go back a couple. Very quickly, we have the alignment coming off of Second, following High, coming down South Second, following McLaughlin, through the park, Third, Gedong, Fourth. Those are the, what we call like the low-hanging fruit. This is the most affordable, the quickest way we can get improvements. With that comes with a list of safety improvements that include the reduction in speed, as well as some other traffic calming things that the city is going to look at very seriously, and has already planned to start addressing those things. This is that connection to Second. This is what it might potentially look like on McLaughlin in an interim stage. So having a widened trail width sidewalk and a barrier. This is an example. Some potential treatments going into the Kenema neighborhood. Some neck down ideas. There's some cost-effective ways we can do that with paint for an early interim project. This is what the full implemented future vision is. And the city doesn't quite have funding for this yet, but they're working on it. And that means Kelly's got her hands full writing some grants coming up. But as she starts to get money for the city, they will start to implement the various aspects. Widening the driveway to get a trail width in there. This is a potential look at what that cross section would look like on Tumwater. So showing a widened path width. This is the museum side, showing parking on both sides, existing sidewalk, and these are residences. This was an early take at what a potential improved safety improvements for the crossing at Second and Tumwater could be. But we knew drafting this out that we were going to have to do more studies to understand it, but we wanted to be able to show some kind of concepts so people could start giving us an opinion on what they liked and didn't like. This is what potential Tumwater south of South Second might look like, with the existing roadway width, the existing sidewalk, adding a trail, and then if this was, developed in the future, how that might address the trail, how that relationship might work together. And I'm done talking at you.
So just really quick, the last couple of slides. So we did take the recommendations of this body and we went back to the Natural Resources Committee, who did vote 4-0 to support the plan. The Transportation Advisory Committee also voted unanimously to support the plan, as well as the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee voted 8-0 to support the plan. Next steps would
You don't have anything showing
include.
what the PAC voted on.
I'm sorry?
You don't have anything there showing what the Public Advisory Committee voted on, which we did have a vote.
Oh,
Oh,
yes, that's true.
the CIC? Oh, the advisory committee,
advisory
the actual
committee.
advisory committee. I'm not sure.
I don't remember what that vote was.
Well, we
It
were
was in
trying
favor,
to, we
but-
were trying to operate by consensus, I think. And then we did end up taking a vote. And I don't remember what it was either, but these groups voted on what the advisory group approved.
So next steps, we'll have some interim steps that we can do to move the project forward in the current budget cycle, which might include going after that 20-mile-per-hour speed designation in Kenema, some other design pieces, as well as looking at our midpoint of going after grants to do the interim trail alignment, and then long-term looking at projects such as constructing the actual trail. We would like to acknowledge the many different groups that helped us through this process, including the 16 representatives of the advisory committee, the Oregon City Parks Foundation, PGE, ODOT, Clackamas County Heritage Society, McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. Many community partners came together to create a vision that was a shared vision to ensure the success of this project. So with that, we thank you for your time, and we'll hear any questions if you have them.
Gentlemen? I don't see any. There's a couple of people that wanted to speak on this particular issue. Paul Edgar and Danielle, can you both kind of come up at the same time? Paul, your name is first.
Uh-oh.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. I'm Paul Edgar. I live in Kanema, and I have a little bit of vested interest. I live on Fifth Avenue. But in a lot of years of land use review, and I'm one of the few that have walked virtually every single part, including visioning trails even 10 years ago, how to connect. There are a lot of safety considerations here. The votes in the advisory committee were far from unanimous, period, on virtually everything. They were close. But what I could turn around and say we really all agreed on was the interim trail, the first one. The idea of saying, okay, what could we do? But then when you start looking down at the safety considerations and some of the critical thinking elements that have to be part of this, including cost and everything, coming down out by the VFW is narrow, it's treacherous coming down through there, the grade is bad, it hardly even comes close to ADA. And then when I come along, and if I were to come out there to 2nd and Tumwater, 2nd Street South and Tumwater, that becomes problematic. So the discussion was, well, we might be better off to go out to out to High Street and come across where the new light is going to be at 2nd and High and go across there. So everything in weighted values was very close. There was no win, lose, or anything. We're just sitting there saying, this is pretty difficult. Then when we cut across, somehow if we cut across that's on 2nd at Highway 99 McLaughlin, this is a big, large gap, and it can have significant transportation impacts in the future. Because when we start to look at the flow of traffic that is critical going through all of there, how that traffic moves all the way through that big intersection there can really be a hassle and can have major impacts across the whole grid. Then after you get through there, if we go along Highway 99 by the body shop, by the old motels and stuff through there, it surely doesn't give anyone any good clean vibes about being right next to high-speed traffic on Highway 99, and it's very short of being scenic. Okay, then when you get down there, if you go down there and you start to try to get up close to the PGE, you can't get too close because PGE doesn't want you close. So they said, well, let's go around on Tumwater.
Getting time there, Paul.
But that's not good. And there was all sorts of options there. So even coming out of Old Kanema Park, there's a little twisted road, and then you go up a 22% grade on Ganong Street. It's
Paul, you need to wrap
bad.
up. Yeah, you need to wrap up.
Okay, all I can say is that the only thing that had real good vibes on it was the interim trail. The rest of it needs to be reviewed more before I would love to see somebody put the permanent stamp saying that's what we want.
Hi, my name is Danielle Lackband, and I'm a person from Morgan City and a homeowner here at 320 Tumwater Drive. One of the proposed final trails actually goes right through my house. So I've talked to a few of you about that, and our home has been in our family for 70 years. So we were just questioning that particular alignment that goes behind Bud's Towing, behind our neighbor's home at the cliff there where High Street is, and right behind our house and through my laundry room and right where my home is. So.
But you've talked to.
I have talked to them. I just was bringing that up one more time, just to let everyone know that it does go through our home. As well as the other concern that I have is if there is a trail that goes behind our properties, I am concerned about my children's safety and my home safety and crime and tents going up with drugs and such. So that was the only other
Kelly,
thing
Mary,
that I'm concerned of.
you want to respond to that?
Does the interim trail
can take that.
solve that problem?
That was revised. That was part of what we went to the 4th stakeholder meeting for, was to hear community comments from property owners.
Was that in December? We were not there. We were out of town.
I'm pointing to the area. There's a house approximately right where my
That's my house.
Yeah, so we came and went around and behind and came up with one that went through here, and there's like a little.
Actually, my house wasn't the one that you pointed to. My house is to the right of the dots that go through where the back wall is. Kelly knows. Right there. That's my house. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think we ever showed a line through your house.
It's right through my side.
Would you like me
I
to
think there
respond
was
to
an-
this?
Sure, please.
Sure.
Kelly knows.
So technically, there's unimproved right-of-way, and that's where the trail alignment is shown, right in between the two houses where there's a city right-of-way. It is one of the 4 really options for getting through the area, and we talked at length about this at the advisory group meeting in December. With a lot of the other property owners were present at that meeting, including Bud's Towing, the Highland Stillhouse, the Gerber Collision, and the Fallsview Tavern. And so those property owners were in favor of seeing an option that went back behind their properties. And so that's why you see that line there. And I think all I can say at this point is that this is really long-term. It's really difficult to say which of these options would be most likely to happen in the future, and that in all cases we will work with property owners and work with future development of those parcels to try to integrate with future development. And so, of course, the interim trail goes along 99 and avoids the area, but if the crossing at 2nd and Tumwater is really the best place to cross, and then Tumwater extends, then we might see it go on Tumwater, and then we would be working with Ms. Leckband and all the other property owners to kind of figure out a final design.
Were you aware that there's public right-of-way behind your house?
It was platted back in 1914. Our house is over 100 years old. There's a little area, but not to the extent.
Yeah, there's a lot of unimproved right-of-ways, and it's one of those things that I spend a lot of time talking to people about because they think it's their yard, but, you know.
There's even buildings built
Yes,
on it.
I know.
Right.
Okay.
That was built over 100 years ago, so, you know.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you.
Okay. Paul, did you have something?
Well, I'm just questioning, so what I'm getting from this is that we have kind of a bimodal plan. We have the plan that deals with the conceptual trail, which would be, for me, like the first trail would be like the concept plan, and then all the other elements that you guys are working out with property owners and things like that that have, you know, more beneficial aspects and more scenic and that kind of thing, probably needs to be worked into kind of like a refinement plan that would come to us later. Is that what I'm gathering, or how is that going to all work?
I I think anything that requires overlay review, so if we're developing a portion of the trail that goes through a geologic hazard or a natural resource overlay district area, it would go through a land use process. Some of those will be type 2 processes. There might be some that come up as a type 3 process that would come to the Planning Commission. There will be some review from the Historic Review Board when we're talking about improvements within Kenema and to the promenade. But this concept plan, so this is a legislative file to amend the transportation system plan and the trails master plan. And once that's done, then I think the city can work on implementation, which includes land use, but doesn't necessarily include planning commission review.
Okay, so tonight from us, you're looking for an approval of the solid lines as well as the dotted lines as options.
Right, the full trail plan that includes both of the alignment recommendations, the interim and the permanent.
Yeah, I mean, I as a member of the Citizen Advisory Committee, we brought up all the things that Paul is talking about, and one of the things that Mary mentioned and Kelly mentioned several times was that there is further study, further engineering, and further refinement that's going to be needed for this particular plan, because we know that there are some challenges, and obviously the city is not going to put any money towards just building something if it doesn't work once we get down to the, to the devil in the details.
Yeah.
So I have every confidence that that has been outlined many places in the plan, and if it needs to be in there one more time saying that this is going to be refined further through engineering and further study, then, that ought to be in, the big, 4-inch print and bolded so that people, don't feel like the trail is going to go through their backyard or on the public right-of-way, wherever that is in their backyard. So
Okay. Is there anybody else?
Gentlemen, do you have any more?
Well, I've got one concern.
Oh, yes, sir, Mr. Mahoney.
That's the public safety aspect of it, and getting trail walkers close to high-speed traffic on McGoffin, if I read that correctly.
They just have to walk faster.
Just walk faster. Which direction?
Whichever one they're getting out of the way in.
But that's the thing that concerns me. And the incline, I think Paul mentioned it, that is pretty steep in a couple places there. But the concept, it's a challenge. There's no getting around it. It's not laid out for pedestrians for connectivity. So I would like to see that maybe addressed a little bit more emphasis.
Okay.
Just a suggestion. The City of Portland has been successful in communicating and interacting with Google to designate some of their safe routes to schools for when it is school time, that traffic will route around those areas. So as we have these green-friendly streets, that might be something to consider, is just reaching out and making sure that it's on their system.
It's a great idea. Vern?
I think we're at the point of approving the concept plan to let it move forward, but we don't have a very specific route A, B, C, or anything like that in mind that it has to, and I don't think the city is asking for that.
So I think
It's moving it forward as a legislative action to start allowing staff to get money resources from grants and other things, and that will eventually determine which is the preferred route. I don't think we can sit here tonight and come up with that.
We have an interim. We have an interim route. That's what we have right now.
No, I forgot what I was here for.
Okay, all right.
I move that we approve the interim trail with the
I'm sorry.
idea that we come.
Are there more comment forms though, Denise?
There was only those two. Was there anybody else that wanted to talk about this particular item? I only had 2 comment sheets.
You had a hand up there in the aisle.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
then
I
come
need
on
more
up.
than 2.
I was looking for these.
He filled one out.
He did? I don't
Yeah.
have it. You got lost in translation somewhere.
Lost.
Uh-oh. Just come on up and give us your name. I see that you're from the VFW Hall. Is that like an understatement?
5 extra points for a vet.
Good evening. My name is Bill Trumbull. I'm the commander of VFW Post 1324. I know this has been a really hard project to work on, and we've had people involved throughout the procedure as much as we could have involved. And I'm just here to thank the Planning Commission and all the planners for their consideration with the VFW to keep that driveway open and access to our building. I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Can you make it a habit of coming down here about once every 2 weeks?
What does it pay?
Bob's got all the money, and his check will be in the mail to you shortly here.
Thank you.
Don't forget about that check, Bob.
Thank you again.
All right, so let's close the public hearing portion unless there's one more person. Nobody? Okay, we're going to close it. And Paul, you wanted to start to make a motion.
Oh, yeah, I move that we approve the current concept plan with the suggested interim trail with the idea or with all the additional comments that the commissioners had to add to it. And then
such as the safe route for schools?
Safe route for schools, et cetera. It's all in the minutes.
Okay.
And then aspects that are appropriate for us to review in the refinement plan should come back to us for review.
And I will second that.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Henkin.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Chair McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Espy.
Aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
Kyle.
Abstain. It's just too much to take in. I don't follow what's going on.
Commissioner Mahoney.
Aye.
Fair enough.
Well, this is our second pass at it. It was the
Well,
first
just
time was
so
on.
many different
I know.
variations
First
tonight,
thing was on the
and it just
13th,
seemed to go on.
and I called in for that. All right, so we'll take a moment here to get the people that need to come in, and before we go to the next item, and the people to go out that are going to go out.
And then this next item is for the annexation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just so people know.
Oh, Laura, just as a item, I have a very brief communication under communication when we get down there, which we will get there. Yes. Yeah, it was great. I read it all. Oh, I just wanted to comment. Yes. I don't have any 3 extras. Has everybody got a place to be? Anybody want to volunteer their lap? Thank you, Mary. Do you have more slips there, Christina, or those are blank ones? Please tell me those are blank ones.
No, they're just,
Yay, they are blank.
no, they're the applicants.
Oh, you've got water, okay. Bob's got water.
Did you?
These, yeah, sorry.
He's got to be here at 10.
We'll go around 10.
I don't think everybody's here that's going to testify. Everybody here is not going to testify.
There'll be another
Okay,
opportunity.
and these, oh, you have little labels, okay.
If they came all
Okay.
this way, we should have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got them in order. Okay, I didn't see any. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just got number 7 earlier, so. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're right, there is a break. I have 12 and then it jumps to 16, 17, and 18. I know, I hate that numbering system. And I may not call them in order anyway. Just depends on how I feel. No, it doesn't. So before I open the public hearing, I would just like to say that I really appreciate the fact that everybody is here. And I am anticipating that everyone is going to be on their extremely best behavior, because if you aren't, I will cut you off. So there's going to be no name calling, no abusive behavior, because I've already been hearing the rumors. People have been calling, leaving me voicemail. So I just want it to be very clear that we appreciate you being here. We like civility. We want everybody to have a chance to say what they want to say, but you need to be nice about it. So if you can't be nice, then please don't say anything. At least that's what my mother taught me. So that's all I wanted to say, because, again, I've had a number of phone calls this week. People have left me messages about things. All right, so we have tonight before us item 3A. It's a review and request for a continuance to March 12, 2018. File number AN 17004, ZC 17005, Park Place annexation and rezoning of 92 acres. And we have so we will open the public hearing, and we have the lovely and delightful Christina Robertson Gardner, who's here tonight to give us an overview and staff report. So,
Are you going to do the 197-763 disclosures, or am I going to do it?
right. Oh, sorry, I have it here. I'm still in the legislative mode. I was thinking legislative, that's night, we get the night off. Okay, so you guys get to hear me say this again. All right, so this is a quasi-judicial land use hearing, and I've read the numbers. So we're going to have a hearing tonight. A staff report has been prepared for each of the applications. It has been made available to the public 7 days prior to the first public hearing. The staff report identifies the approval criteria that apply to each of the applicant's proposals. Staff has analyzed that criteria, which is contained in the staff report. The quasi-judicial hearing procedure that the commission will follow is set out in state law and the Oregon City Municipal Code. The hearing procedure is shown on the chart to my right. Anyone wishing to speak has already filled out or should fill out a speaker's card and give it to staff. Speakers will proceed in order in which their card is received, and you should fill out your name and address on the card so the city will be able to notify you of the final decision. For the public record, please begin all testimony by stating your name. Testimony and evidence should be directed towards the applicable approval criteria. If you believe other criteria apply in addition to those addressed in the staff report, identify and discuss those criteria and explain why you believe they apply to the application under consideration. Any person may submit any written material while the public record is open on each application, and any written materials received by the staff during the time period in which the record is open will be placed in that record. Written materials submitted during the public hearing must be presented to staff in order to be part of that record. If a person intends to use PowerPoints, oversized poster boards, reports, pictures, or other exhibits in their oral testimony to be placed in the record, please present copies to the staff while the record is still open. If they are not given to the staff, they will not be included in that record. Any person wishing a continuance to present additional evidence and testimony or to keep the record open to respond to new evidence must make that request before the public testimony portion of the hearing is closed. If the Planning Commission makes a decision in which you disagree, any issue that you may wish to appeal must be raised for consideration of the City Commission or the Land Use Board of Appeals. Without raising the issue on the record with sufficient specificity and accompanied by statements of evidence that the city and all parties can respond to, the issue will not be deemed appealable to the State Land Use Board of Appeals. In addition, the failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issues precludes an action for damages in circuit court. So I've said those staff reports. So just for the record, Carrie, the proposed request for a zone change is the land use application. The annexation is not technically a land use application. Correct?
They're different kinds of land use applications, but yeah.
Great. Okay. So now, Christina.
Before you start.
Yes, excuse me. Yes, we forgot. So staff, and before staff goes, does any of the commissioners have any ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest, bias, or any other statement to declare, and have any of you visited the site? So I'll start with Mr. Mahoney.
No, I haven't visited the site.
What were those?
No ex parte?
None.
Okay.
What were all those?
Mr. Hankin.
Oh, you're skipping me.
Yes, Mr. Hankin.
No ex parte contacts, and I haven't visited the site recently.
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
No ex parte, but I did visit the site for about a half hour, driving around a little bit.
Mr. Guile.
I think I fit every one of those descriptions there.
Okay.
I'm biased and all that, so So I'm recusing myself so I can comment as a taxpaying citizen and then somebody who lives right there.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. We'll see you back for the following items.
You got it.
Thank you. Mr. Espy.
That'd be me. Okay, so no ex parte contacts. I've looked at the aerial photos of the site.
I have not had any ex parte contacts other than the phone calls, which I have not returned any of them. And I do not have any conflicts of interest. I am obviously intimately familiar with Park Place because I was one of the staff people that processed the health hazard annexation back in the day. That's taking people back. Yeah. Yes, he's just crossed himself. So I am very, very familiar with this particular area, and I have walked some of the site in the past. But in the last month, since I knew this application was in process, I have not been to the site, but I've been to Park Place probably a lot. Does anybody have any objection?
Chairman Griff, I think it would be helpful if you talked a little bit about the phone messages that you received.
As I stated earlier, the phone messages were regard to possible bad behavior that may occur at this meeting. That's what the nature of the messages were.
Okay. How many messages did you get?
2.
And you listened to them?
My husband listened to them, and he told me what they were. I did not listen to them myself, but they were on my machine.
And you did not return the calls?
I did not return the phone calls.
All right. Thank you. Anybody?
Usually what happens at our home is that if another call comes in, it goes over the top of the other call, so I could not have listened to them anyway because they were already gone by the time I found out about them because somebody else had called me and left another message on top of that. So I could not go back and listen to them anyway. But I got the gist from what they were.
All right. You might want to go ahead and invite the audience if anyone has any further questions about these disclosures.
Anybody have any questions about any of our disclosures? Okie dokie.
Before we move into the staff report, real quick, I just want to make sure we're clear about the shifting gears that has happened between the previous file and this one in terms of quasi-judicial proceeding. All of the facts that you are to be considering are ones that are presented here in this room or in writing in the record. And we want everyone to have an opportunity to question you or understand your experience. As Chairman Griff talked about her experience having visited this site many times and participating in the Park Place concept plan, if you have experience.
No, not the Park Place concept plan.
Okay.
It was the Park Place health hazard annexation.
Oh, excuse me. So anyway, but if there are things that you have particular expertise in, particular concerns, it would be good if you voice them before we close the record so that everybody has an opportunity to hear about them. As I understand it, you guys are going to be pretty strict with the time limit, so I will turn it over to Ms. Roberts and Gardner. I believe that the plan is to continue this hearing until April 9th.
It says March 12th. Is that continued again?
It's going to be April 9th.
April 9th, okay.
All parties, everybody in the audience has an opportunity to submit materials in writing at whatever length. So the fact that we're going to be short with the time limits today is not intended to prejudice your ability to express your concerns. So with that, I'll turn it over to Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Yeah, and
thank you, everybody, for bearing with us on that.
And I'll provide a little insight with the additional continuation date change at the end of my presentation. Before we begin, I have 3 items to be entered into the record. One is the stat presentation tonight. Exhibit 2 is an article from the Oregon City News, which you have on your dais from this last week, as well as a February 12, 2018 letter from Wes Rogers with the Oregon City School District. So those have now been entered in the record, and they will show up in the next agenda as PDFs for people in the audience to see. So really quickly, the background, this is an annexation for 92 acres of land within the urban growth boundary. It is applying the zoning to the annexed area in conformance with the land use designations that are in today's Oregon City Comprehensive Plan. So right now, it's a portion is Clackamas County Future Urbanizable, which is FU10, and some RFF5, Rural Farm Forest and Acre. Those properties will be, at time of annexation and zone changed, rezoned to R10 single family when it is in low density residential area, R5 dwelling district in the medium density residential area, and neighborhood commercial in the area that's identified as MUC. So the proposed zoning designations, if approved, represent an initial step in implementing the vision of the North Village part of the adopted Park Place concept plan. For your reference, the areas in yellow are the proposed areas for annexation. These 3 areas in pink, I'll get back to as they relate. These are not areas in the annexation, but have a question as if they are islands or not, and there'll be a future slide that discusses that. You'll see the comprehensive plan designations. Once again, the dark brown is medium density residential. Low density residential is the light yellow, and MUC right here is the mixed use corridor.
What is the street that's down on the MUC that's in blue?
This street right here is Livesey.
Yeah, well, of course, you know I can't see the dot.
Sorry. So the area that is parallel to the MUC is
Right.
Livesey. Yeah, correct. And then which ends close to here. This is the geologic site topography. Areas in green are 0-10% slope, light yellow are 10 to 25% slope, kind of an orange is 25 to 35, and the pink is over 35% slope. Livesey Creek kind of runs right around here, as well as kind of you'll see this area shows a gentle slope as we move down from Holcomb.
So you're swirling in the yellow?
Yeah, I'm swirling in the yellow. Apologies.
That's okay.
Here's an aerial photograph. So again, it's connection to Holcomb Boulevard. This is where Livesey Road kind of pops up right here. This shows the Park Place concept plan in the area, and magenta is outlined as the annexation areas. And once again, the Park Place concept plan is a concept, and so as we were talking in the last application, is you move from concept and you refine. And the first step is annexation and applying zoning designations. So there are code criteria for zone changes, and there's 3 slides I'll show you, as well as annexation. Metro has boundary change criteria, and those findings have been found in the staff report. Oregon City Municipal Code Title 14 also has criteria for annexation, as well as criteria for zone change. I'm not going to go through them in detail tonight because we will be coming back to you, but I would remind everybody there is specific code changes that both staff and the Planning Commission will be reviewing. I'm going to provide just a real brief overview of the main conditions of approval and topics. This is a bit of a unique one since it's a very large annexation, and there's still a lot of work to do to move forward. And so some of the main conditions of approval are relating to next steps. So the first one is, if annexed, zoning may not be applied until the alternative mobility targets are adopted. And the City of Oregon City is currently reviewing those targets and amendments. And so if an annexation is approved, it'll stay at the county zoning, and only such time that the alternative mobility targets are adopted and our municipal code is amended to implement them, will that zoning be able to happen. And that will happen as a course after that. The next one, if annexed, no development may happen on site until approval of a Type 3 Planning Commission master plan is given for the entire 91-acre property, and address the Park Place concept plan, specifically how the proposal can meet and implement the Park Place concept plan. The Oregon City's public facilities plans, those include parks and trail. Specifically, the timing of parkland acquisition and development. So when is the proposed park area going to be developed, and how is the applicant proposing? The applicant and our Oregon City Community Service Director, Phil Lewis, still have a lot of conversations about, the next step is what is the city's role, what is the applicant's role. So at the time of the master plan, that will be presented. Sewer, water, and stormwater, how utility phasing can foster redevelopment of the entire concept area. So when is the appropriate phasing, and how can we make sure that the phasing is stubbed to allow the next stages to occur? And finally, the transportation system plan and the proposed phasing of the major roads to ensure a timely connection to Hawley. There is a large connector road, I'm going to go back here, that takes you from Holcomb Boulevard down through the annexation site and outside of the annexation site to Hawley Lane. So the applicant will need to address, I'm going to go back, oops, sorry, apologies. The applicant will need to address how that connector road will be phased. So that'll be done during the master plan. And so no development can happen until such time. So even if it's annexed and rezoned, no development can happen until the master plan is approved by the Planning Commission. And finally, at the time of master plan, the developer shall participate in proportional funding of off-site intersections. So as you're aware, there's a fair amount of off-site intersections that need to be improved. And I've identified, as in the staff report, the TSP projects have identified that they will provide proportional payment for. And so these are identified lists. These include but are not limited to, there may be additional that are brought up as part of the master plan, but these are the ones we are identifying as at the time of the annexation. You can read through them, but the key thing is what we're doing here is we're identifying their proportional share that they will then further refine at the master plan level. One policy question that both the Planning Commission and City Commission will need to ask through this process is if these 3 properties right here that are not part of the annexation constitute an island. The Oregon City Comprehensive Plan does have policies about evaluating and avoiding to create unincorporated islands within the city. If there's a decision by the Planning or City Commission that this does constitute an island, then they would be brought into the city through a forced annexation, and that would go to the vote of the public. The whole property, these 3 parcels will be added to the 91 acres, and the whole project would be sent up to the voters.
Why would we want to do that?
Well, this is a policy decision. If they decide it's not an island, then those 3 parcels could stay. If the Planning Commission and City Commission do make findings that it is not an island through this process, once again, this
Christina,
is not. Yeah.
This let me clarify just a little bit. I don't think it's a question about whether or not these are islands. I think that if you look at the plan policy, policy 14.4.3 provides in some instances the city may require that parcels adjacent to proposed annexation be included. And so I think the question is this one of those instances? And what staff looked at for the question of what are those instances is the reason why we don't want islands. The reasons why we don't want island is that they intercept our ability to develop our annexation lands. And so what we asked the applicant to do was go back and tell us and analyze whether or not this staying as an island would preclude the development of the Park Place concept plan. And what we came away from was the answer was no. And so I think it's going to be up to you from a policy perspective as well to decide, is this an instance where this island must be included?
But isn't that defined by state law? Islands?
Whether it's an island?
Islands, yeah, whether or not they're islands.
I don't think that there's a state law relating to islands. I'm not familiar with one.
The city's
This is the city's comprehensive plan that discourages islands, and it's not a mandatory provision, and the applicant has pointed that out. But, so I think that that is a question that is for further thought and discussion during this hearing.
Did I hear you right in saying that if those had to be included in the annexation, then the entire annexation would have to be voted on by the people?
Yes. Yes. If they are going to be forced to be included, the way that this annexation gets out of having voter approval under the charter is that it's unanimous, and that it's all of the owners volunteered. And so if we've got 3 owners who didn't volunteer, then we're in a forced annexation system. We can't use the special Senate bill that trumps the charter, and it would take owner consent. I'm not sure that we would, we could force these owners in. We could deny this because it doesn't meet the plan policy. So there are more options than forced ownership.
Are you saying that we cannot proceed with the annexation as requested without?
I'm saying if you decide that this is one of those instances where you cannot proceed without these 3 parcels, then you either force these 3 landowners in, or you deny the annexation because it doesn't satisfy plan policy 14.4.3. Or you decide that this is not one of those instances where you have to discourage the creation of an island. So I think there's sort of 3 options.
Okay, thank you so much for that explanation. That will help the public.
Thank you very much.
As well as the commission.
Will help me.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that was fantastic. Thank you. So we are requesting a continuance now to April 9th from the original March. And some of this is the applicant has been working with ODOT as well as our transportation engineer, John Replinger. When you do a rezone, you look at the reasonable worst-case scenario. And the mixed-use corridor area, which would be rezoned to neighborhood commercial, both the city's traffic engineer and the applicants were looking at what would be the reasonable worst-case scenario for commercial development kind of inside this little area of the North Village. And I think we were tending more towards the vein of reasonable, because I think we were looking at the reality of what kind of commercial would be in there. I think ODOT, because of who they are, they were looking at more of the worst case scenario aspect of, what could be the worst case there. Regardless, the applicant will be further refining their proposal at the time of master plan. And so the applicant is happy to continue working with ODOT to identify a reasonable worst case scenario for the neighborhood commercial. It's just going to take a little time. And so we'll be able to be back on April 9th with a revised staff report, as well as being able to incorporate those revised transportation analysis for the neighborhood commercial area. And I do have John Replinger available to speak for quickly 2 minutes about this issue and kind of just in general how we are looking at transportation implementation, both on the property as well as off-site intersection improvements.
Is this something that can wait till the next meeting?
Yeah, it can wait.
I'm just asking.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it should. I'm just saying, is this something that would be more germane?
I think it's more
later?
providing an overview. It'd be 2 minutes, but if the
Okay.
Planning Commission
No,
wants to move forward, we can do that as
I'm just asking a
well.
question. I'm not suggesting anything.
But if it's part of Christina's presentation, I think that we ought to.
I'm just asking a question. I'm not
just-
making a comment.
Give your best 1 minute, John.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. Christina did actually a really good job. The one thing to highlight is that development of this area was included in the analysis for the TSP because it was in the urban growth boundary. It identified improvements that are needed to projects that, for the most part, were also included in the TSP. And finally, as Christina explained, we'll be coming back, the applicant will be coming back with a little bit more trips from the commercial area. We will revise the staff report accordingly, which will change the level of participation by the applicant in funding those 9 projects that were identified in the plan.
Okay.
And that's all?
That's it.
So I know just FYI, as you recall, John, this commission had some major concerns about including Holly Lane in the TSP to begin with because of its constraints and the geotechnical issues. So I'm just repeating that because that's a concern.
You could ride down Holly Lane.
I don't drive down that road. You don't want to go down there.
Some people that live there.
It's dangerous. All right. So what are our time limits for everybody?
The applicant would go next, and so they would have the 15-minute time limit.
And everyone else?
For everybody else, on the board behind me, it's 3 minutes for public and 5 minutes for neighborhood associations, recognized groups.
Okay. Since this is going to be continued, I would just like to say personally, I hope you don't take the 15 minutes. Pardon?
Can we invite the
Yes,
applicant up?
I'm going to. Thank you.
I have their cards, sorry.
Yep, that's okay. I was waiting for them. I knew they were coming. Rick and Michael, welcome back. Come on up. Come on up at the same time, please.
Sure, I'm not going to testify
Okay.
at this point. Good evening, my name's Rick Givens. You have my name, my address, I believe. I'm a planning consultant for the applicants. I am going to be very brief. We've made our case in writing as part of the record. Staff has done a very thorough analysis of the criteria, and basically we do not disagree with the findings in the staff report. I would note that this is simply a first step. I know a lot of people here, perceive it as being opening the gates to development. Really, it's just a very preliminary step. The Park Place concept plan was adopted 10 years ago. In that decade, there's been a couple attempts to annex that went down in an election, as you all know. But in order to begin the process of developing a master plan, doing the refinement, doing all the studies, geotechnical, storm drainage, all those things, we need to be annexed in order to spend the money to begin doing those types of studies. So this is simply a first step to get the property in the city, and then we can begin the process of really doing the work that will prepare a plan that people will have a chance to comment on. I would note that this project is something that not only has been envisioned by the city for quite a number of years, but it's one that will provide for some well-thought-out neighborhood development in terms of parks, in terms of trails, in terms of connectivity, all things that will benefit that area of the city in the long run. We're aware there will be some pains for people in doing that, but this is, again, something the city has set in place. It's an area that's supposed to be annexed to the city and developed to help meet the population growth. And so we're just beginning the process. I'm just going to note this island annexation thing. I just want to reiterate what's stated in our application narrative and also in the staff report that we did approach those neighbors about annexing, made serious discussions about ways that could be done that would not be disadvantageous to them. They did not choose to join the application. But I would note that the plan policy regarding islands is not mandatory language. It's mandatory there be an evaluation of the impact of allowing an island. And in this case, it doesn't affect any of the servicing of the area. Sewer and water go out to the south. The water mains are already there in Holcomb. It's built to fully serve this area. So there really is no reason that leaving that area in an unannexed state will have any impact upon development of this property or the ability of that property in the future to annex and be developed. So for that reason, we believe that it makes perfect sense to proceed with this rather than to, cause something that would delay it for further consideration. We do not object to the conditions of approval, and I would like to make sure that everyone in the audience understands that the annexation of this property would not immediately make this property available for development. Zoning would be held in abeyance until the transportation issues are resolved. We'd have to do a whole lot of planning. There'd be a master plan process, as you're all aware of, but I'm stating this for those who may not understand that. And that this probably is a several-year process to get through the planning of this large area of the proposed annexation. Just to clarify, too, you may be wondering why some places say 91 acres and some say 92. That's a difference between adding up the assessor's parcels and the legal description written by the surveyor. It's approximately 92, so just to clarify that.
Just to clarify.
Beyond that, I'm not going to offer anything more. I would be happy to answer questions. We have the traffic consultant here tonight from Lancaster Engineering. If you'd like to get more specifics on traffic, I suspect you'll want to leave that till later. Mr. Robson is here if there are legal issues. And with that, I'll conclude my comments, and we'll let the people get on with their comments.
Don't get up.
Thank you.
Don't get up.
Oh, come on.
They may have a question. I don't want them to be precluded. Gentlemen, do you have questions for Rick?
No. I'm okay.
So let me ask the question that I always ask.
Sure.
What about what's happened in previous areas up in that area where people came in and clear-cut all the trees? Are you anticipating that there's going to be any tree removal prior to anything?
There are multiple property owners involved here. I can't speak for what they may or may not wish to do. I don't know of any proposals to remove any trees.
The concern is that, if it's still going to be in county land.
Yep.
Some of that land does allow for removal. I think it would be as we've said this many times, it would be a shame if this happened while we're in this process, where the property is clear-cut, particularly where we have slopes and issues going on there. So just,
There are no proposals to do that, and once it's annexed, then your tree protection ordinance goes into
right,
effect.
right. Just get-
So
get-
we understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, thank you, Rick, really appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for getting that. Okay, so we're going to begin with the slips, and some of them did get a little mixed up, so they may not be totally in order, but I hope people are okay with that. Okay, I'm going to call people up two at a time, if that's okay with commissioners? Is that okay? I get people up two at a time, so we're not doing all the shuffling around? So I have Tom Guile, and I have Linda. Is it Attack? Did I say it right, Linda? Did I say it right, Linda?
So
Atta,
I put
okay.
what's in there. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I can do that.
Tom Guile, taxpayer resident of Oregon City, and what you're getting right now is you all got a copy of the article in the paper, and you couldn't read it because it was so small, so I want to make sure you had a copy of that. I autograph it for you if you'd like.
Before you start, should we have said anything if we...
Don't take away any of my
get the Oregon
time.
City News and we've read the article?
Should you have said something?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I have a subscription to the Oregon City News.
And we need to make sure that if you do read the articles, that you bring them in and we get them in the record, if you think of it.
And I believe that's already in your record anyway, because I
Okay.
saw it on the dais there tonight. So, starting now, boy, there was a lot of things already said that I could talk about. I've read your article recently in a paper from a few years back, Linda. But anyway, since moving here about 15 years ago, I have dealt with this headache called Park Place Neighborhood Concept Plan. I moved here from a green belt in Tryon Creek Park over in southwest Portland. I'm a lifelong Portlander. But 25 days after moving here, back in 2003 is when I got the first flyer about the fact that there was going to be a development behind me. And the road that's going to come through the pinch point there was going to come 25 feet from my bedroom. And that's when I started arguing against this and attending every single meeting that happened during that time. Since that time of moving here, I used to be really cheerful and I was going to move here for my retirement. But since I've moved here, I've become politically involved, obviously. I've become cynical. I've become sarcastic. And by looking at the amount of time I get in the paper, I think I've become a pretty good damn writer because I get in the paper every time I want to write an article. But the articles, what's more important about the articles is I'm really proud of them because it motivates and engages all these people here. It informs and it stirs a wider interest to people. And so that's why tonight I wanted to make sure you all had that article. I may serve in a city capacity, but I was a citizen before I was in any capacity here in the city. And I've held my opinions and been strong about this for 15 years. I've been arguing against this, and then 10 years since the concept plan became regular. So wanted to make a few comments about if you were to live up in that area, there's a corner right there, a pinch point between the big yellow and the other yellow. There's a pinch point right there that's only about 40, 50 feet wide. I'm not even sure if it's that wide. That's where the road wants to come through, and I live right near that corner right there. So if you were to live in this area, you would understand what I've been dealing with and why the headache, and I never thought at my age I'd have to move again. If you were to visit this location as a group, maybe as a field trip so you would understand, that would be wise. Because over time, I've had David Frazier up there, the previous city manager. I've had various previous commissioners that are no longer commissioners. I've had Kent Ziegler. I've had Rick Givens. I've had Mayor Dan Holliday and more, all to show the pinch point and what I'd be living on. As you come through a road there, there's people with children right on the very pinch point. And if you were to see that, you're going to have, we live up above, the road's down below. We're going to have car lights. We're going to have noise and traffic coming through that area. And it's incredible. Tonight's just the opening fire rounds. I see the big guns are out, but you're going to hear a lot in the coming weeks from all the people who live in Park Place. There's a lot of people in Livesey who want to sell their properties and move, but they have no idea what it's like up there on Holcomb Boulevard and what we're about to deal with, because there's only one way, until they build that full road out, there's only one way out, and it's up Holcomb and down through all our neighborhoods with the stub roads opening up. Thank you very much, and I hope I look forward to seeing you many, many more times, because this is going to go on for a while.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Linda?
Yes, my name is Linda Attic. I'm a resident of Livesey Road, and I was the Livesey Road representative at all of the public process in formulation of the Park Place Master Plan. I'm also a professional landscape architect and planner with over 40 years' experience working in the Portland metropolitan area and working with Oregon land use law. We're not here tonight to debate whether or not Oregon City is going to grow. We know that Oregon land use law mandates that every jurisdiction has land available for growth. We are here to evaluate if this application conforms to Oregon land use law and Oregon City statutes. The law guides growth so that it occurs in such a way that farm and forest land is protected, so that growth occurs close to high-capacity transportation corridors. Growth occurs where urban services can be provided, and growth is guided by citizen input. The land in the Park Place Master Plan is not productive farmland or farmland soils. It is a mile from Interstate 205 and Highway 213. The land within the Park Place Master Plan has portions of it, including my property, have been inside the urban growth boundary since the 1980s. So this has long been identified as a place that growth should occur. In the years that we went through the master planning process, many citizens attended and went through the design charrettes and public meetings to give their input. Numerous professionals analyzed and gave input. We heard from soils, traffic, and civil engineers, from the school district and utilities districts. Many compromises were made. Over 50% of the land area is set aside for open space, trails, protection of trees, slopes and drainage, and wildlife protection. This is where development should occur. Growth has been unbalanced in the metro area, with much of it occurring at the fringes, far from transportation corridors and eating up farmland. At hearings like this, we hear from people that already have their homes, they have their property, but who we don't hear from is people that need housing. We need to advocate for housing, and Oregon City needs to share in the growth of the metropolitan area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. George Thomas and Lynette Bissou. Did I say that right, Linda? Basio. Basio, Lynette, okay. We gotta have some phonetics here.
Off my ears.
Can you hear okay, Mr. Thomas?
Let me get put together.
Okay, you can hear okay? Are you ready?
I am.
Okay.
Denise, it's been a long time.
Yes, nice to see you.
Yeah, I had Brandy Christopalos on Molo Avenue. I don't know if you remember that or
Yes,
not.
absolutely.
I want to thank all of you for me being here tonight. What I would like to do is address the three.
Can we get you to state your name for the record, please?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
George E. Thomas. I live at 16644 South Livesey Road, Oregon City, Oregon, of course. And I've been there for 47 years. But anyway, I'd like to see this go through real peacefully, if all possible. And there's three up on Holcomb Boulevard that I'd like to try to explain something to them, maybe that they don't realize that they're sitting on a gold mine. I'd like to run something by it happened to me. It might help that, if I may. When I was 25, 26 years old, I ventured out to buy some property, and I was looking at 2.5 acres over in West Lynn. And the real estate guy who showed it to me come to me one day and asked me to sign some papers for get a appraisal. So I signed them. And about a week or two went by, and he come by and asked me when I was going to take possession of the property. And I said, well, I haven't seen the appraisal yet. And he said, well, you bought the place. And I said, so right away I figured, dummy me, I went out and looked for an attorney. to see if I could get the dumbbell off of there. And the attorney, he had analyzed it for a couple of days and got back with me and said, Mr. Thomas, if you don't want to take that property, he says, I'll take it off your hands. Well, you don't have to hit me in the head twice, but anyway, I went ahead and purchased the property, and the deal went through. And I learned about a week later that the gentleman that sold it to me, had it forced on to me, I might say, it was going to be annexed into the city, and he did not want nothing to do with it whatsoever. And so time went by, and I thought, boy, here I am with a worthless piece of property. But about a year and a half went by, and developers started coming out of the woodwork like termites, making me offers on this property. I finally sold it 100 times my money. And I invested in lots of other properties, and that's where I am today. But anyway, these people here are sitting on a gold mine. The only difference is they already own the property, and I was forced into mine. Now, they can sell those properties and move into another location and have lots of money left over. They can send their kids to college or their wives on a beautiful vacation. And believe me, the money is there. And anyway, the bad side of the story is you don't want to get in a hurry selling either, because about a year and a half after that, the gentleman that bought the property from me sold it to another developer for 3 times the amount that he paid me. So there's money there. And I'd like to express to them that maybe they might want to go into the annexation rather than fight it, because they're sitting on gold mines.
Okay.
And I think, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Lynette?
My name is Lynette Bossio. My husband and I live at 16402 Cattle Drive in Oregon City. I wish I had the red poker up there to show you. Basically, my house is a corner lot there, and it's in a cul-de-sac. If you look opposite, you'll see a cul-de-sac at the other end. That's a dead-end street, and ours is a dead-end street. So when we moved from Selwood in 2006, so I've been there for about 14 years, to get out of the city life and out to a more rural area. When we moved in, we were told by different homeowners in the area that this was green space, don't worry, they're never gonna be able to develop on it. And a year after we moved in, and I'm glad that Denise brought this up, one of the developers lives in West Lynn. He owned about what I thought to be 50 acres behind us, and he decided to clear cut the entire area. It was horrible. It looked like a bomb went off. I mean, here you have this forest, and then it literally looked like a bomb went off. And similar to the one that they just did on Holcomb across from the Trails View development, and that is owned by Sierra's farm. They just clear cut that, and it's been an eyesore there for the past year. So for the past 10 years that we've lived there, we've dealt with blackberries, poison oak. My husband's had it 5 times now, growing onto our property. We've continued to clear it. So I live in the cul-de-sac that literally is going to back up to the property where Holly Lane is going to, I think it's like 1/4 of a mile away from the back of my property. And so what makes me concerned is they're going to open up Cattle Drive, Shartner, and that Willamette Valley Drive, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And all that's going to loop into Winston and out to Holcomb, coming off of a major thoroughfare, the Holly Lane. And, I've dealt with the city before, because what happened is they opened up my Cattle Drive and put 4 homes there. And there was a 70-foot tall tree there, and they needed to put a sidewalk in there. And instead of taking the tree out, which I asked them to do because it was going to fall down anyway, they went around the tree with the sidewalk. So left the tree for me and deeded me about 6 feet of property. So what I'm concerned about when they come in there, they're probably going to have to widen Cattle Drive, and they're going to take that property away from me. So that 6 feet of property they will probably want back. This is a disaster plan that needs to come up. They need to come up with a better plan. It's an old, outdated plan. Holcomb is 40-mile-hour zone, and people are already going 60 miles up and down. I'm asking maybe if they could reduce the speed. Also, at the end of Holcomb, what's the plan for that sharp turn where everybody gets stuck in the ice and the snow? All I would like to say is please don't build and take away our scenery, and all the wild animals will be jeopardized there. I'm really nervous because of what happened to us 12 years ago where they clear cut everything and it looked like a bomb went off. It was horrible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynette.
Christina, where is Winston Drive? It's not on this map, I presume.
And see where that island sign is right there? Just go to your well, to my left.
Over to
right there. Right there. That's the exit. Over. Right there. That little
Okay,
tiny
that's, okay,
entrance.
that's Winston, okay.
Thank you.
Yes, so we need to take a minute to change the tape. So I'm going to call the next two people to come and be on deck. That would be Kent Ziegler and Todd Thomas.
Oh, okay, thank you.
He'll tell us when he's ready. Not yet. As they say, talk amongst yourselves. It's my favorite Mike Myers line. Yes.
We have the article too.
When he does Linda Richmond on Coffee Talk, he goes, talk amongst yourselves. I watched him on when he had that weird comedy show where he played a fake British guy. I thought I was going to die. It was so it was just hilarious. Bob, how you doing? You look like you're bundled up there because your throat's trying to tell you something.
I'm headed north.
Headed north?
Last year. Well, I know we're on West Land. Going to the Olympics.
North to Alaska?
North to Alaska. I'm going to have my own Olympics.
All right. He says the tape's ready. Okay.
Okay, are we ready?
Yes, we are.
My name is Kent Ziegler. I'm a resident of West Lynn, but I am here on behalf of the Oregon City Business Alliance. I'm president of the Oregon City Business Alliance again this year, and they wanted me to go ahead and bring up some points for the discussion tonight. So good evening, Planning Commissioners, Chair McGriff. I just wanted to share with you a little bit of history about myself. I grew up in Oregon City, graduated from Oregon City High School, have lived in Clackamas County all my life. I'm a tax-paying resident in Clackamas County. I was the individual that was the original one that started assembling a lot of this land. I was fortunate to develop a Street of Dreams off of Redland Road in 2004 and 2006. And from that standpoint, having grown up in Oregon City, I chose to go ahead and reinvest some of the funds from that project into the Livesey, Holcomb, Redland Road area. So in 2000, we started acquiring what is the parcels 502 and 500. We continued to acquire land through that period of time for the next 5 to 7 years, with the main goal to go ahead and connect a secondary emergency vehicle access from Redland Road to Holcomb Road, connecting to Holly Lane. The reason for that is in working with the city engineering staff, after we had first acquired about 40 acres, we realized that the proposed access for secondary emergency vehicles that the city had on the land that they owned at that time would have required the fire trucks to build a lot of bridges, the city to build a lot of bridges to go across canyons. So in 2002, Metro, together with the county and the city, decided to go ahead and add additional land into the urban growth boundary. It was approved and adopted by those three jurisdictions. And what that allowed them to do was to be able to provide that secondary emergency vehicle access with only a 7% grade. Now, that saved the city a tremendous amount of money. Otherwise, that secondary vehicular access would probably never be built due to the cost of having to go across canyons. With that in mind, we've worked on numerous concept plans. I've had the pleasure and honor and opportunity to participate in over 50 advisory committee meetings, neighborhood association meetings, planning commission public hearings, city council public hearings on the Park Place concept plan. I have walked this property over 100 times myself. I know the topography very well. As we all know, we have an existing housing affordability crisis right now. The state, the county, and the city is looking for ways to go ahead and provide more supply to go ahead and have a diversity and availability of affordable product. The reason why Metro, the city, and the county approved these concept plans, at least this one, to come in 2002, was to try to alleviate that continued price escalation and affordability. Fortunately, the planning commissions and the city commissions in the past, on all occasions, have approved the concept plan applications to go forward. And I'm hoping that the planning commission on this occasion will do the same. It's something that has been thought out very well. It solves a lot of issues for secondary emergency vehicle access. It provides affordability and availability of housing diversity and types. It's close to I-205 and Highway 213, so we're not impacting the existing roads that some of the other concept plans, like the South End concept plan, might. And it just makes good sense. Now, the other thing the Oregon City Business Alliance wanted me to bring up is, and I appreciate one of your planning commissioners mentioning that he was the author of an article, but they did not appreciate his choice of words, and I won't mention his name, but in the closing paragraph, he says, if you wish to provide testimony regarding this attempt to shove this development down Korean residents' throats. Earlier, that commissioner said he's here to inform, and we just feel that there's a time for respect, and there's a time for open-mindedness, and there's a time for fairness. And we just feel as an elected or an appointed official, it's important that they maintain that respect for everyone that's involved. We thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Todd Thomas, Oregon City resident. I grew up on Livesey Road at Swan. And first of all, I would like to say, for Kate Brown to take away the Oregon City residents' chance to vote on this, I think that's wrong. That's my opinion. And I know this is a concept plan, but where they show Swan going through, which would go about 40 feet from my mom's house, which me and my wife were planning on purchasing at one point in time, but if this happened, who would want to live next to a busy road with traffic? It just would increase it so much that the increased traffic and safety issues would just, nobody would want to live there. But the thing I wanted to bring up is a possible solution to, instead of punching the road through from Holcomb down to Redland and from Swan all the way through to Redland was, and this would involve a conjunction with ODOT, which I know this is an Oregon City plan, but I don't know if it's come up, but if anybody ever thought of going down Holcomb Road to where the overpass goes over Highway 213 just before you get down the Redland intersection, and if you came down that west between Apperson and the overpass, you could make an on-ramp right onto 213 North. You're alleviating that traffic there, sending them right on to the main highway to go wherever they wanted to go. And you could also, on the other side, to west of that, you could wrap it around where that sharp corner the lady was talking about earlier. You could make, I guess it'd be a radius. There's one property there, and there's one property on Apperson. If you bought those two properties, you could make a right hand and swing it down, and you'd have southbound access onto Highway 213. You wouldn't have to stop traffic at all. The Redland intersection would not be, that wouldn't even be an issue. So that was just something I wanted to bring up. Don't know if it's been thought of, and I know there's a traffic engineer here. I don't know if that's come up, but that would take conjunction with ODOT to.
He's on it.
Oh, and
we'll tell him to get.
I mean, and the other things too. The price of widening Redland and widening Holly Lane, and I don't know, that concept is probably further down the road, but I just wanted to give my thoughts on that.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Art Kirchhofer, and Bill Trumbull. I usually get to see you behind the counter.
Yeah, same counter.
little different counter.
Is Bill still here? Or did Bill leave? Okay, we'll put him aside. Mr. Wes Rogers, sir.
My name is Art Kirchhoffer, and I live on Libsey Road since 1955. And my family has a pretty substantial parcel there, and I also have resided there my entire life. So first of all, I'd like to just say that we're for the concept plan, and I'm for the annexation application. I'm hoping you'll approve it. One of my couple concerns, I'm just going to be real brief, is twice in my life I have been flooded in on Libsey Road with no way to get in or out for any emergency access for at all available. So it would be real nice to have another access to get in and out, whether it's up to Holcomb or down to Holly Lane eventually. So that's one of our main concerns. And then one other, just a point of interest for your concern and your consideration would be, if you do approve this plan, the construction phase, we would like to, several people asked me to say this, so if you could not route all the construction vehicles and trucks and stuff down Little Libsey Road, we'd appreciate that. So other than that, just our family's owned it for a long time. We've known about the urban growth boundary and the rights of citizens to develop that property, and hopefully this is the right plan for the whole area. I don't have a lot of sympathy when people talk about moving into the area and buying inside the urban growth boundary, which you knew it when you bought it. So you should have been taking that into consideration for other people that should have the privilege to do the same thing and develop their property. So thank you.
Thank you. How nice to see you again.
Thank you, Chair McGriff and other Planning Commission commissioners. Wes Rogers, I'm representing Oregon City School District tonight and also a longtime resident of Oregon City. Just wanted to brief you on the educational impacts of this development in its very early stages. Attendance boundaries areas in this parcel are both Holcomb and Redland Elementary Schools currently. Students in this area would go to Ogden Middle School and then on to Oregon City High School or one of our other charter high schools. Currently, the district has some short-term limited capacity at our elementary schools to handle any elementary enrollment that might be generated by the early stages of this development. We have capacity at Ogden Middle School to handle projected early stage enrollment, as well as the high school has capacity to handle any high school students. Recent development in the Holcomb Elementary area, I've been here before recently and shared with you that to the west of Holcomb Elementary School, that development has generated 2 students at Holcomb Elementary School. So currently, we're not seeing a lot of least elementary students generated by some of the housing developments that are happening in the Holcomb area. The district is currently seeking a capital bond. We've been talking about that with the Planning Commission and the City Commission, and that is expected to be on the November 2018 ballot. That plan in its current state would move Ogden Middle School to a new site and expand its capacity when it's moved. And that site is currently have a right of first refusal next to Holcomb Elementary School. And then the former Ogden Middle School site would then be repurposed as an elementary school once we needed an additional elementary school site in that area, which would tie nicely in with the Park Place Neighborhood Concept Plan, as we'd have another elementary school for students in that area to attend. So I guess generally we believe the plan that we have for the longer term would meet any of the enrollment generated by the development of the Park Place Neighborhood Plan.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. And I apologize, but I have to go to another meeting, so I'm going to step out of the room in case you have any questions.
Please feel free.
But I'll be back next month. Okay, good.
We'd like to go to another meeting too, but we can't. Christine and Bob LaSalle. You guys are color coordinated tonight.
And this will be Exhibit 5 into the record.
That's okay. I'm going to save one for Mr. Navy. Go ahead whenever you're ready, Bob. Or Christine, whoever wants to go. Do you want to flip for it?
I can go first.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, you were called first, so go for it.
I did one thing wrong tonight. I forgot my glasses. Christine Kozinski, I live in unincorporated Clackamas County. I'm requesting the city to hold the meeting open until the following concerns are addressed. I request that the city send notice of these hearings to everyone on Holly Lane, Maple Lane, Thayer Road, and Redland Road. These are people that live in Clackamas County, and the impact from this plan is going to be huge. You are beginning the Holly Lane extension. The people on Holly Lane have every right to know what you plan to do with their street, and what are you going to do with the homes that are only 20 feet from the road. I'm requesting that the Planning Commission invite Scott Burns, Professor of Geology at PSU, to attend an upcoming meeting on this annexation. Scott Burns is highly qualified to address any concerns the Commission may have regarding landslides in the Park Place and Holly Lane area. Scott Burns can also validate the fact that there is no landslide insurance available to anyone that lives in a landslide area. Scott Burns has told me that he would come if he's invited. I request that the city clarify for the record, should this annexation be approved, this would be the beginning of the Holly Lane extension. I would like Oregon City to state, for the record, that Holly Lane, as it stands now, between Maple Lane and Redland Road, will not become part of the city with this annexation. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Good evening, Chair McGriff and Commissioners. My name is Bob LaSalle, and I live in Oregon City. I'd first like to caution you to not let the developer think that you can think only in terms of this being a annexation and zone change, because Section 14 of the City Code states that you must consider possible development. It doesn't say may, it says must, and I'll discuss that at a further time. And I hate to say it, but I've discovered something that kind of smacks of staff bias in favor of the developer. Whether this was intentional or not, I don't know, but in the staff report with findings and conditions dated February 5th, 2018, it states, quote, recommendation, approval with conditions, unquote. Yet another staff report, undated but printed on February 5th, states the staff has asked that the applicant consider revising the transportation impact study to nominally increase the potential worst-case scenario and build-out of the development, unquote. Further on in that report, it states, quote, as the applicant will be providing an additional analysis. Now, I've got a couple of questions and a request. Will the applicant actually be revising the transportation impact study, as in one place staff asks for it, and in another they indicate that they will be providing it? My next question is, how can staff recommend approval without having all the documentation that they requested? How can they do that? They don't have all the information together that they requested. So my request is that the recommendation of approval with conditions be rescinded and replaced with, quote, no recommendation, unquote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, Michael Duran and Paul Edgar. Everybody's so polite. I love it. Thank you.
My name is Michael Doran. I live off of Holcomb Boulevard in Oregon City. And I was sitting in my home on Saturday morning and enjoying the Clackamas Review and read the article by Mr. Guile, and that motivated me to say goodnight early to my family tonight and come down here in my first ever attempt at political activism, aside from voting. And I think that that's compelling in the sense that my interest in being a new resident to the area in the last year and a half, already appreciating the more quiet lifestyle off Holcomb Boulevard, but also realizing that growth is important and it's necessary and it's coming. I just ask that the commission consider visiting the site. I was really impressed tonight. I had never been to a meeting such as this where you disclosed whether or not you've ever been to the area yourselves, and I just highly encourage you to do that as part of this process. There's construction afoot as we speak already on Holcomb. Further, I guess it would be east off of Holcomb, north, further east of this particular Winston Drive concern that's come up tonight. So that's already happening. Another resident of the area mentioned that the area clear cut across the street from Winston, and I'm wondering if that perhaps is that where the middle school is being proposed? I don't know if you can answer that or not, but that clear cutting area, it's already happening. So the traffic is a concern. Plus then knowing from a neighborhood association meeting that there's no plan at improving the roads, the infrastructure at 213 in Redland, at Redland and Abernathy, as far as I understand, based on being at previous meetings. And so I just want to appeal to the commission to go out and visit the area and get a better feel for what's happening currently, with a lot more happening now than, as I can tell, ever before. Or in the most recent time. And I thank you for the opportunity tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to come back again. The environmental concerns at this site can be pretty fierce. And what I have here, and I'd like to give this to the city, and hopefully the city can extract from it, but it's a Dogami LiDAR mapping of Oregon City with a lot of detail of all of the tailings and slides and all of the demographics, you might say, of what Dogami did. And this is specifically on Oregon City. I have maps of this myself, but what it would be nice would be to get this up on the website where people could take a look and see what the State Department of Geology and Mineral Industries shows for Oregon City in detail analysis. And a lot of that is right here. And if we got that up on the website, then a lot of people would have similar understandings of what some of the conditions truly are. Because slides can happen on 10% grades. And we're really only looking at things at 25%, and that's wrong. They could be 10, 15%. It's really the geology and what LiDAR sees underneath the ground. And this ground here moves. It's got water on it. It's got the grease necessary to slide. And all I would like very much is for you guys to take a real serious look. And I think that the citizens of Oregon City need to be up at that same level, the same speed, where they can see what's really there, and we get rid of a lot of this whatever the word is. Yes.
Yes.
Plus, to me, one of the big issues here is transportation. Holcomb is a mess. It's difficult. It's narrow, and it's just hard to do anything with. Then when you come down through there and you look at all the transportation plans, and if you visualize in your head, wow, every house may generate 11 trips a day. That's 11 trips in and out on all of these roads. That's a lot of trips. Do we really have a handle on how we're going to do that? How that's going to match up to Redland Road? And how that's going to flow from Redland Road then to 213. And I've been sitting through the discussions on alternative mobility targets. And we really don't have a good handle of what it is, and we don't have any money, both from the county, from the state, and from Metro perspective to do anything. So we've got needs to handle or address the transportation and no money. So we need to have a real good look at this and just be very honest to ourselves and make sure that we have the deep pockets necessary, or if we don't, put up some limits. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Oh, can I have the CD? Thanks.
Denise, we're about a half hour out. How are we looking?
We have 1, 2, oops, I already did Rick. 3, we only have 4. Oops, sorry, we only have 3. Sorry, I counted somebody twice. Rick, I counted you twice. Okay, we have Captain Steve Ford and, okay, I'm gonna kill this, sorry. Nick Boschetti? Did I get it even close?
Nick Boschetti.
Is Nick still here?
I don't see a hand going up.
Maybe Nick's out in the back 40 there. So no Nick?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, then we have Chris Cook. That's it.
Nice. I'll take it.
I told you I'd fix it. Yes, sir, please go
Good
ahead.
evening, Commissioners. My name's Captain Steve Ford. I'm residing at 15190 Holcomb Boulevard, right up in the corner of that map, adjacent to the city limits and across from that massive residential development that's going on. To vet myself, I have 3 degrees, BS, MBA, and MA. I sailed as master of a supertanker. I built 2 ships. I was VP of a fleet of 12 blue water ships. I was 37 federal cases, an expert witness. And I'm an expert, I opine I'm an expert on Holcomb Boulevard. For public safety, the captain's not happy up there. I moved in 2000. We had deer, 6 deer, quail, coveys, lots of four-legged critters, excuse me.
We'll take those too.
All right.
See, the TV's left.
Holcomb's the Wild Wild West up there. We're right at the top. It's crazy. The neglect of appropriate authorities up there is pathetic. It is a threat to public safety up there. The police have not gone past halfway up the hill in 17 years. Their development halfway up started the growth. And for the commissioner, just to go back, I noticed how they played with the maps. I'm a map expert too, a few others to boot. They haven't shown you the aerial photo of the old growth up there. I own 2 acres, 1.5 of which is wooded, and I can guarantee you that's going to be the last growth at the top of Holcomb. It's all gone in the last 17 years, not just the wildlife, but also. My point is the rednecks east of Oregon City are going 50, 60, 70, 80, and 100 miles an hour and giving the finger as they go by up there. It is pathetic what is happening in Oregon City. I've seen them airborne off the top of that hill to go down. There used to be a school zone halfway through at the curve they were referring to. They took it away. It's still 25 miles, and they're still doing 60 miles. And 1 car went airborne and landed about 25 yards from the house on the curve. The next one, within the last year, took out the tree, or tried to take out the tree. The tree won. We need speed bumps, safety considerations, lights, all of which has to be done before any of this happens. And this doesn't stand alone. It is one of 4 developments in this last 8 years. We're looking at 6,000 homes that have come in the last 8 years. 2,000 homes. I'm sorry, 4,000 vehicles, 6,000 residents. It's just not smart to look at it alone. Think of it with all 4 developments. A systemic solution on Holcomb is absolutely necessary, and God help those, because I'm leaving. Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
sir.
welcome. Thank you.
Good evening. Could I borrow a laser pointer? Do you have one of those? Good evening. My name is Christopher Cook. I live on Cattle Drive up off of Holcomb. And I have a few concerns I want to bring up tonight. But first I want to say I'm okay with the development. I think it's necessary. We do have to have houses for folks to move to, but it has to be done the right way. And the concept plan that I've seen, I reviewed the whole thing, is 10 years old. The city has done no land banking for parks. Park Place is completely underserved by parks. Traffic is already horrible. Depending on who you talk to, you're talking about 450 to 1,500 homes, depending on which phase and where you're talking about. And now it's not here that they're going to move Ogden Middle School up to Holcomb. And I don't know if you folks have driven that curve up there when school lets out. It's impossible. And as the captain mentions, the speed is an issue as well. I have also heard that there's no money to improve Holcomb, Redland, and Holly is going to be smaller from the get-go than it needs to be, in my opinion. I heard the developer talk about secondary emergency routes. And if I understand him correctly, he's talking about Trailview, which is this area right here. In Holly Lane, the new road would come down here, skirt down, wrap around down into Redland Road. I've heard Swan Road is off the table at this point for another access. So the idea of a secondary emergency route through Trailview is not feasible. I drive a large SUV and I can barely get around the corner at Winston and Smithfield right here. If a fire truck came in there, it's going to take them 5 or 10 minutes to get through this neighborhood. Especially if there's kids, and there's tons of kids in this neighborhood. School buses can barely maneuver these corners getting through each day to drop the kids off. Most of them drop off out on Holcomb, and there's pass-throughs from Holcomb into the neighborhood here on this court. And the buses don't even come in because they cannot navigate the corners. So the idea of these 3 streets in Trailview meeting up with the larger street, nobody in their right mind is going to go all the way up Holly to Holcomb and then go down to the middle schools, 2 elementary schools now you're talking about. They're going to go through these neighborhoods. These are uncontrolled intersections. There's no straight shot to Winston, which is right here. This is the only outlet to Holcomb. You'd have to go up Cattle. You'd have to go up Shartner and then down to Cattle or up to Trailview. You'd have to go Journey up to Trailview and down and then out Winston. So this essentially creates a huge bottleneck. It's not a very feasible secondary route for emergency vehicles. And it's only going to increase traffic in that neighborhood where there's tons of kids every day riding on their bikes on the streets. So those are the issues I wanted to bring up today. Again, I'm not against development, but it should be done the right way and planful. And a concept plan that's more than 10 years old should be revisited.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
May I supplement?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Governor. Neglected to
Just keep it
mention,
short.
we don't have the water pressure up there. I had a shower once 17 years ago. It's about time for a new one. Sewer is a problem as well. The fire situation adds 6,000 people, fire department, infrastructure. Please look at it systemically as a citizen's request.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We appreciate it. You want to say anything, Rick, or hold everything for next time? Well, I'm delighted to see you, even though you said you weren't going to testify.
I said I wasn't going to testify at that point. Good evening, Chair McGriff, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Michael Robinson. I'm a land use attorney here on behalf of the applicant. What we'd like to do is hold our oral rebuttal until the end of the continued hearing, April 9th. That'll give us a chance to hear whatever additional testimony folks have to offer. Secondly, I told your planning director, Ms. McGriff, that I would extend the 120-day clock on behalf of the applicant. So we'll extend it from today until April 9th, the date of the continued hearing, which keeps the city whole in terms of the 120-day period. We agree with the continuance to April 9th, and we understand the written record is open until then you'll come back and repeat the public hearing process that night. And with that, Chair McGriff, that's all we have tonight.
Thank you. Rick,
Thanks.
Anything?
Only if you have more questions of me.
Anybody have any more questions for Mr. Givens?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, we will close this portion, and we need a motion for continuance.
I'll move that we continue this file to April 9th, keeping the record open.
Second, please. Seconded by Mr. Mahoney and Mr. Johnson. They both seconded.
Okay, are we ready for the vote?
We are.
Okay, Mr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Mr. Guy, oh, Mr. Espy?
Aye.
Let's see, Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Henkin?
Yes.
Chair McGriff?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, great. Thank you for, Christina, for a very excellent and thorough report. It was very good.
Pete Walter was very much involved in this one.
Well, yeah.
Well, we know that, but
Both you and Kelly.
you were the head honcho, so thank Kelly as well. Okay, so we have just a, we still have our, gentlemen, we still have our meeting going on. So if you could exit quietly so we can finish.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate everybody that showed up tonight, and we're sorry it took a little bit longer, but you know, it's always good. Good things come to those who wait. So Laura, you wanted to briefly tell us about the great information that you put in our packets on statistics with charts and arrows and 8x10 glossies and all sorts of other colored graphs and things. It was very exciting.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to acknowledge a little bit of work that so I'm the Community Development Director, so I support both the planning and the building departments. Can you hear me better? No? All right.
Can you close the door, please?
They're trying.
Thank you.
So I support both the planning and the building departments. This is just a snapshot of some of the highlights.
Thank you,
for
Carrie.
both of those departments in 2017. A lot of it is a little bit more planning, though. I just want to acknowledge that in the planning department, we only have a few staff members, and the amount of work that goes into however many pages this is incredible. And you can see, looking through the amount of applications that we submitted and thinking about the types of applications that have been submitted this year, it's really been quite a lot of work. Just generally, the number of applications is the same or higher, but the complexity of the applications is incredibly significant compared to what it was before. We're seeing an increase in larger new buildings. I mean, we went for years without seeing brand new buildings in the city, and it's our job to just process these applications. So we've been quite busy doing that. Also, we've been stuck in court. That's been a lot of our story this year, and that has certainly taken up a lot of time. I'm here to answer any questions that you have, and just know that there is a ton more work that we've done that's not been in this packet, but I wanted to keep it to 10 pages or so.
Well, the more the merrier. Just, yeah, thank you so much for that, because I thought it was very comprehensive. Christina, can you make sure that, I know he looks at a lot of stuff online, but the attachments that we had today, the things that were handed out, could you make sure to send those to Commissioner May, because right now we're staying away from him because he's sick.
Okay. Yeah, I can forward them to him.
Yeah, if you just pop them in the
And then
mail.
everything you see on the record tonight will
Right.
reappear.
Well, I know, but that way he'll have it ahead of time. He
I can do that.
appreciated the fact that I dropped off a couple of weeks ago the other things that we'd gotten that were given out at the meeting. He was able to read those.
I can do that.
Anyway, if you guys will bear with me for just a minute, we'll get out of here, but I wanted to let you guys know that in December, we were invited to attend a city commission work session, and I don't remember how many of you came.
I wasn't there.
You weren't there. I don't know if you came. Did you come?
Oh, December?
Yeah, in December.
May not have been.
And I don't think you, I think you were on the road, and I don't think, I don't know.
Which was the meeting?
This was the one where we were talking about the alternative mobility standards.
It was a work session.
It was a work session. Anyway, so I think you were there and I was there. So I just want to let you know that at the time of that meeting, I was a little bit, let me just say, miffed in a way, because I did not appreciate being invited to a city commission work session and then having the commission berate us at that meeting in public. I felt it was extremely inappropriate. Our decision on an application that had happened previously was questioned. The comment was made that we didn't base it on the facts, we based it on feelings. And I just want to say for the record, my opinion is that our decision was not based on feelings. It was based on findings of fact and conclusion of law. And there was a lot of discretion in part of that application. We did what we felt it was appropriate. It was not, we did not try to second guess anybody. And we're always available if people, anyone, commissioners or other folks want to talk to us about the process we used in making the decision. And of course there was the tape. But all they need to do is ask. So fast forward to February the 7th, Paul and I presented the information that you also kindly looked at and was submitted to the commission for their review on what our goals are. And I will say it was a completely different tone at that meeting. We were supported, we were applauded for the hard work that we do. Brian's favorite word is that we do the heavy lifting, and I said, yes, we're all working out at the gym now because we have to do the heavy lifting. And in particular, Commissioner O'Donnell and Commissioner Shaw said that they appreciated the work that we did and that it was kind of a thankless job, but I said, well, we're all here because we appreciate the city. We feel like we want to give back to the city. So I just wanted to give you sort of a tale of two cities or a tale of two meetings that happened, which was kind of, one was kind of beating us up a little bit and the other one was patting us on the back. So that was really all I had. I just wanted you to be aware of that. Does anybody else want to say anything before we adjourn? Yes, Mr. Mahoney.
I've said it before, that there's planning over here and there's legal over here. When I started in this business, there was planning over here and there was planning over there. Somewhere after the Bassano decision, where the courts upgraded our status and the legal aspect became more and more applicable. Now there's planning over here and there's legal over there. None of us are attorneys, but during a very short course of a public hearing, we're asked to digest a lot of legalese, so to speak, and I want to emphasize how important I think, from my point of view, the record that we established during those public hearings based on findings and testimony and staff report is absolutely essential during these trying days. And I want to congratulate Carrie and our planning staff on that appeal that went to them on the hotel and the professional manner in which it was conducted and heard, based a lot on the written record that we have established. It just wasn't hearsay. I mean, it was something you could put your hands on it and reach back and say, oh yeah, here it is. It was on the record. And I feel that being accomplished, I think it impressed a lot of people.
Yeah, several commissioners commented at the hearing that they appreciated the fact that we had a thorough record that they were able to rely on for their decision-making.
And I'm getting more and more to the point where I really don't give a rip how long it takes, how much of a record we have to establish. Is protecting the public and the public interest so that when these appeals will go forward, there's a record to refer to. We've done our job as quasi-judicial, along with the staff.
With sufficient specificity.
Yes, with specificity, right. So anyway, Carrie, Laura, young lady, congratulations on a job well done. I was very impressed.
So just as a postscript, because I want to be out here before 10, just to make Zach happy, because I like keeping Zach happy, is that I also complimented all of the staff at the end of our report to make sure that they were aware that we appreciate them, and that I wanted the city commission to hear that as well.
I must have missed that part, yeah.
Well, I said your name several times, yes, yeah.
In vain.
No, not in vain, not in vain. So, are we ready to adjourn, Zach? Why don't you make the motion?
I motion we adjourn, or
Okay.
move that we adjourn.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We are officially adjourned.
Thanks, you guys.